Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're in the kitchen again today, and today we are going to be making a German chocolate cake. Now this is a rich cake with great chocolate flavor, and it has this kind of delicate texture. Most people love this kind of cake, so if you have chocolate cake lovers in your family, you're gonna like this one. So to start, we need to melt some chocolate with some water. So I'm going to use a chocolate melter. You can use a pot on a stove if you want. You have to pay more attention to a pot on a stove than a chocolate melter. So what I'm going to do is plug my chocolate melter in. This is either on or off. And to that, I am going to add half a cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips and half a cup of cool water. Now this is going to take a little while to melt, so I'm just going to stick the lid on and we'll come back once this has been fully melted. So that'll take maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and while I'm doing that, I will do a few other things and prep for the rest of the recipe. Alright, so our chocolate is mostly melted. That took about 10 minutes in this particular melter. If it's not perfectly melted, that's okay, because it's going to end up going into the mixture and getting kind of pulverized anyway. So just as long as it's mostly melted. So now let's make the rest of our cake. You're going to want 1 cup of butter or margarine. I'm using butter. You can use margarine if you like. This is quite a chocolatey cake, so we're not going to worry about it too much. Okay, so we are going to put 1 cup of butter in there, and we are going to add to it 2 cups of sugar. Okay, 2 cups of sugar. Then we're going to drop our mixer, and we are going to mix that up. Now this is the Bosch Compact 400 watt kitchen machine. I will put a link to it in the video description because somebody always asks. In the meantime, use whatever mixer you have. This is not the best mixer on the market. I love it, but obviously any mixer you have works. So we're just going to pulverize that, let it run for a minute, 45 seconds, something like that, to get that butter crunched up in there. Your butter does need to be softened. And like always, I'll turn the volume down on the video so that the sound of this mixer doesn't irritate you. Here we go. Okay, good enough. It just has to get started. So to that, we are going to add 4 eggs. Just grabbing a spatula. To that, we are going to add our 4 eggs. Okay. Good. And we are going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, so just a little bit of vanilla. You don't need a ton. Sorry, dog nonsense. That was bizarre. There was nothing to bark at. They're just being weird. Anyway, so now we're just going to whir this up. Again, I'll turn the volume down. Okay, now we're going to add our chocolate mixture. I'm just going to get some of the butter off of here. There we go. But we're just going to add our chocolate mixture. It should be mostly melted. And if you had unplugged your chocolate melter, or removed the pot from the heat, it will have also been mostly cooled, because we don't want to curdle anything. So just get that chocolate mixture in there. I have a couple of chocolate chips that didn't fully melt. We're not going to worry about that. There we go. Okay, we're going to drop that and really get that going for a minute or so. Now it's time for our final cake ingredients. We're going to want 2.5 cups of whatever flour you normally use for cakes. I'm using all-purpose flour. You may be using cake flour, that's fine. Whatever you normally use to make cakes. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda, not powder, baking soda. We're going to add half a teaspoon of salt. Any salt will do, that's table salt. And then we are going to use buttermilk. We're going to add the buttermilk slowly in a stream so that everything ends up incorporated properly. All right, and I'll show you that in just a sec. So let's turn this back on. Okay, we're just going to take a minute to scrape down the sides because no matter what mixture you use, you will get ingredients riding up on the side. So let's scrape those down, scrape our spatula off on the mixer, on the beater, drop the beater back down, and finish incorporating our ingredients. There we go. Scrape that off because we want all the batter we can get. And then we'll just take this out of here. Pop it in a bowl so we don't make a mess. And there we go. We have our batter. We no longer need the mixer. We're done with that. That out of the way. Now we have our batter. Delicious, excellent batter. Okay? Excellent batter. We love this batter. All right. Straighten my mat. This gets crooked. Get yourself a couple of cake pans. I'm using round, 8 or 9 inches fine. You can also use square, not a big deal. And we're going to spray them. I'm just using a canola oil cooking spray. You can use butter and flour. You can use cake goop, whatever. I'm just using the cooking spray because it's easier. You can use whatever works for you. So we're going to fill these pans most of the way, like 3/4 of the way full. And I'm just going to go over here and put some in this one. So try to divide it equally. I know that's sometimes tricky, but do try. And while you're getting ready, you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. That tends to be a pretty good temp to cook cakes. So 350 for this cake, and for most cakes. Some cakes, no, but most cakes, yeah, that's what you want. Okay, get that in there. Kind of smooth that out. Let's get all that. Yeah, we like that. Yum. I don't like leaving scraps of butter behind. Okay, so you're doing pretty well now. Your oven should be preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. You should have your cakes. You can, if you don't like a lump in the middle of your cake, you can try to make a little well. But I'm going to tell you right now that this particular batter is just going to fill in that well really fast. I know that's a trick a lot of people use to try to keep the cake from having a dome, but on this particular cake that's very difficult to do. So you can try, but this batter moves really, really fast. So you can try, I wouldn't bother too much. So give your cakes a shake and a tap to get the air bubbles out and to equalize your batter. And once you've done that, you want to stick them in the oven for 35 to 40 minutes. Keep an eye, you don't want to overcook this particular cake because it gets really dry and tough. So keep an eye on your cakes. Check them at 35 minutes. They might have to go to 40. We'll be back. All right, our cakes are now cooked. And we are going to gently take them out and flip them over. They have been cooling for 10 minutes in the pan. So you want to gently take them out, flip them over. And now we're going to let them cool completely. Remember, you cannot add any kind of frosting to a cake until it is 100% cool. That could take an hour or two depending on the temperature in your kitchen. So we'll come back when these are fully cooled. All right, so our cakes are cooled. We'll set them aside for a moment. And we're going to get a plate. Now I'm using the top of a Christmas Tupperware container just so I can keep my cake covered. We're going to take one cake, place it on our plate. I am using here a coconut pecan frosting that I made this morning. I will provide a link to the video description, in the video description, to this particular frosting. So I'm just going to put a layer of frosting. Now you can use any frosting you like, obviously. And you can make it as thick or thin a layer as you like in between your cakes. There we go. Looks about good to me. Now we're going to take our second cake, flip it upside down, and pop it on top. Then I'm just going to take a little frosting because this cake really speaks for itself. It's kind of a light German chocolate cake, and I really like it. And it doesn't need a ton of frosting. So I'm just taking this frosting and I'm just going to make a layer on top. I'm not even going to frost the sides. I don't care. Also, I'm really not good at frosting cakes, so I just want the taste of the frosting. I don't need to make it look fancy. Now this frosting, just to warn you, does not pipe because it's got pecans and coconut in it. So you're not going to be able to pipe this through a bag. But it still makes a wonderful frosting with some texture for people who don't just like a plain frosting. And it is fantastic and easy to make, and it is quite delicious. And it complements this cake pretty well. But again, you can use any frosting you'd like on this particular cake. There we go. And there we have it. That is the cake that the kids are just waiting to eat because I won't let anyone eat it until after I filmed it. They're just behind the camera waiting to eat the cake. So that is about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. I do hope you enjoyed making a light German chocolate cake with us. Remember, you can pair it with any frosting you like. We'll see you tomorrow.